There is a man on a beach. He is alone. The Greek camp is behind him, 10,000 soldiers. The ships. The noise of an army that has been at war for 10 years. All of it is behind him. He kneels down, plants a sword in the Trojan earth blade down, hilt up, and takes his time, making sure it is stable. Adjusts it, checks it again, like a man who has spent his whole life doing things correctly and is not about to stop now. Then he stands, looks out at the sea. The name of this man is Ajax, the greatest warrior still standing in the Greek army. Not the most famous, not the most celebrated, the greatest, the one you send for when the line is breaking, the one who has never, in 10 years of this war, been carried off the battlefield. He is about to fall on that sword. The question, 3,000 years old, is not whether this was inevitable. It is what it cost him to get here, and what it cost everyone who never thought to ask. Let's go back, not to year 1, year 10. Same walls of Troy in the distance. Still standing, same as day 1. The men who arrived as soldiers in their 20s are in their 30s now. The ones still alive. In year 10, something happens that changes everything. Patroclus is dead. Achilles' closest friend, the man who went out wearing Achilles' armor, carrying his name into a battle that wasn't his to fight, went too far, and Hector killed him. When the news reached Achilles, he dropped to the ground, poured dirt over his face, tore his clothes. Homer says his mother heard the sound from the bottom of the sea, and then someone had to go out there and bring the body back. Menelaus reached Patroclus first, held the ground long enough to buy time. Then Hector came, and Menelaus, brave. 10 years, a soldier looked at Hector and stepped back. He went to find Ajax. Not Agamemnon, not Odysseus, Ajax. Homer says he found him on the left flank and called, "Come now, Patroclus, we have to go." Ajax came. What follows in Iliad Book 17 is one of the most sustained passages of pure physical courage in Homer. Ajax and Menelaus planted themselves over the body and held. Hector came with the best of the Trojans. Zeus himself tilting the battle their way. Ajax held. Moving through the men around him, hold your ground. Close the gap. Don't step back. Homer compares him to a ridge of rock that holds back a flood, not deciding to be strong, just being what it is. Then Zeus covered the battlefield in fog, not metaphor. Literal darkness so thick that men 2 feet apart couldn't find each other. Men stopped fighting, not because they were beaten, but because the world had gone dark. Ajax stood in the dark. He couldn't see, couldn't find anyone to send to Achilles, couldn't even see the body he was protecting. And he prayed. Homer records it in direct speech, which he does rarely. This one he gives us word for word. Father Zeus, save the sons of Achaea from this dark. Clear the sky so our eyes can see. Kill us, if you will, but in the light. Not save us, not let us win. Kill us, if you will, but in the light. Zeus heard him. The fog lifted, and Ajax, who had been standing in the dark the whole time without moving, without releasing the body, looked out at the cleared field and went back to work. That prayer tells you something no list of victories could tell you. He did not ask to survive. He asked to see. For Ajax, being forced to act without full sight, not knowing what he was doing, unable to read, the ground in front of him was worse than dying. Not because it was more dangerous, because it was wrong. He was a man who believed. As a matter of identity, that if you were going to do something, fight. Stand. Hold. Fall. You did it with your eyes open. Dying in the light was acceptable. Living in the dark was not. He carried that his whole life. He never imagined it would be the thing that undid him. Homer gives Ajax one epithet that repeats across the Iliad bulwark of the Achaeans. Not sword, not champion, bulwark, the wall, the thing you put your back against when everything else is failing. When the Trojans reached the ships, which, if burned, meant no one was going home, Ajax held them off alone, standing on the deck with a naval pike, driving men back, refusing to give ground that could not be recovered. In all the battles Homer describes, Ajax is never shown receiving a wound the way other heroes are, not because he wasn't fighting, because the image Homer builds, book by book, is of a man whose shield, 7 layers of ox hide, 1 plate of bronze absorbed what came at it. Always. He was not invincible. He was simply the person you put where nothing could be allowed to break through. And he did that job, every time, for 10 years. Before Troy, there is one day that deserves more attention than it usually gets. Hector challenged the Greeks to single combat. 9 of the best drew lots. The lot fell to Ajax. Homer describes his response in 3 words. He came forward glad. Not performing confidence. Not relieved. Glad. The gladness of a person given the exact task they are most suited for. In the moment, it needs doing. They fought for an entire day. Hector was the greatest warrior. Troy had not most violent. Most present. He fought for his city with his whole body committed to what he was protecting. Ajax was the same kind of person. Different materials. Hector's speed against Ajax's endurance. Both completely present. Neither looking for the exit. By late afternoon, neither had fallen. Zeus sent heralds to stop the fight. Almost dark. And then the part almost no one tells, they gave each other gifts. Hector gave Ajax a sword. His own sword. Silver-studded. Ajax gave Hector a purple war belt. 2 enemies. A full day of trying to kill each other. And at the end, they looked across the ground they'd churned up between them and recognized something, that the person across from them was the same kind of person they were. That the fight had been real and the other man had been worthy of it. The sword Hector gave Ajax that day. Remember that sword. This is who Ajax was before everything changed. A man who prayed for light, not survival. A man who held because that was simply what he was. A man whose enemy respected him enough to give the sword from his own belt, which, in that world, meant you are the kind of person I would want to have fought against. He was not beloved the way Achilles was beloved. He was not admired the way Odysseus was admired. He was trusted. In the quiet way, people trust the person who is always there when things go wrong. The person you don't have to think about because you already know they'll hold. There is a loneliness that comes with being that person. Not the loneliness of being disliked. The loneliness of being so reliably strong that it never occurs to anyone, including you, to ask whether the strength is costing you something. Ajax had been carrying that for 10 years. He had never called it anything. He had never had a reason to. Then Achilles died. Paris and Apollo. Done. The greatest warrior in the Greek army gone. And now someone had to decide what happened to his armor. Not equipment. This armor had been forged by Hephaestus himself. Made in a single night at Thetis's request. On its shield alone, cities in peace. Cities at war. Fields being ploughed. children dancing, the ocean running around the edge of everything. Wearing it meant something. Being given, it meant something. Two men stepped forward, Ajax and Odysseus. Ajax believed directly, unambiguously, that the armor should be his. He had been Achilles' cousin. He had fought beside him from the start. When Achilles fell, Ajax had stood over the body and held off the Trojans while Odysseus pulled the body to safety. The case seemed obvious. It was not decided the way Ajax expected. The judgment went to a tribunal. Trojan prisoners were asked, which Greek warrior has done more damage to Troy? Ask the enemy, they have no reason to lie. The Trojans chose Odysseus. This is where most retellings make a mistake. They turn Odysseus into the villain, the tongue defeating the sword, the system rigged. That is not what happened. Ajax was body, duty, presence. His value existed in the act, in the 10,000 moments across 10 years when he planted his feet and refused to move. Those moments were real. People are alive because of them. But they were not made of language. They couldn't be arranged into an argument. They existed only in the doing. And when the doing was over, they were invisible, the way all essential things become invisible once you've learned to rely on them. Odysseus was language, strategy, the capacity to take what had happened and make it legible, to arrange events into a shape other people could evaluate and be moved by. After Achilles, the war needed the second kind of strength more than the first. Not because the first was lesser, because the world had shifted the way worlds shift. Without announcement, without caring what it cost the people organized around the old arrangement, Ajax had given everything to be what the war needed. Then the war changed what it needed. Nobody told him. Nobody asked if he was ready. Because he was Ajax. Walls don't need to be told the world is changing. The night after the judgment, Athena did something. Sophocles tells us this at the very start of his play, before anything else. The first thing we need to know, before the story can proceed, is what happened that night. Ajax had left his tent with a weapon and an intention. He was going to the commander's quarters. Agamemnon, Menelaus, Odysseus, going in the dark, alone, directly the way he did everything. He had decided. He was moving, and Athena stopped him, not by appearing before him, not by blocking the path. She did something more specific and more terrible. She looked at Ajax, a man whose eyes, she would later tell Odysseus, saw very well, and she made them dark. Not his mind, not his decision, his sight. The one thing he had built himself around, the thing he had asked Zeus to protect on the battlefield, let our eyes see. She took it, just for a night, just for those hours, in the dark, with his eyes showing him what wasn't there. Ajax went into a herd of cattle and sheep and killed them, thinking they were the commanders, thinking he was doing what he'd come to do. He brought some back alive, tied like prisoners. For those hours, he was completely certain, and completely wrong. Dawn came. Tecmessa heard the change before she understood it. Something had shifted inside the tent. She went to the entrance. Ajax was sitting among the bodies of the animals, completely still. She waited. After a long time, he looked up and asked her what had happened. Not a cry. A direct question, the flat clarity of someone who already understands something is wrong and needs the full information before deciding what to do. Tell me everything, every detail. She was afraid of what the telling would do to him. She had never seen him like this. She told him. He sat with it. Tecmessa waited for the rage. What came instead was silence. A long, specific silence. Not a man controlling himself, but a man making himself see something completely before he does anything else. Because that is how he has always operated. Because seeing clearly first is not a practice. It is the precondition for everything. Then, slowly a sound came out of him she had never heard before. He had always grieved in silence. Contained. Managed. Now it was more than that. Coming out of him, the way something comes out when it has been held a very long time and has finally found the place it can no longer be contained. He spoke to the chorus outside his sailors from Salamis, 10 years beside him. Do you see how this bold and valiant heart, this warrior so fearless in wars against his enemies, has turned his hands against tame animals? The mockery. He did not ask them to understand. He named what he saw and made sure they were looking too. Then he asked them to help him die. They said no. What follows looks, from the outside, like something familiar. A man who cannot face humiliation, pride that will not survive disgrace. A cautionary tale. Sophocles is doing something more specific. Ajax did not fall apart because he couldn't endure what people would say. He looked at himself with the full, unsparing clarity. That was his most essential quality, and saw someone he did not know how to be. Not a monster. Not a stranger. Someone who had moved through the world blindly, wrongly, hurting things that deserved no hurt. And he could not locate that person and himself at the same time. He came out of the tent. This surprised everyone. Tecmessa and the chorus had been outside, afraid of what they'd hear next. And then he came out, carrying his sword, walking with the unhurried stride that was simply how Ajax moved. He spoke. What he said has divided scholars for 2,000 years. It is called the deception speech. Bernard Knox, one of the great Sophocles scholars of the 20th century, called it one of the most mysterious and majestic passages in all of Sophocles. He called Ajax in this moment a deadly, lucid speaker. Deadly lucid. Ajax was not known for eloquence. He was the wall. And yet here, in his last real speech, he speaks with a precision Sophocles gives to very few characters. As if the last day had burned away everything unnecessary and left only what was most true. He talks about time. Strangely, the long and countless drift of time brings all things forth from darkness into light, then covers them once more. He talks about how everything yields. Winter gives way to summer. Night gives way to day. The strongest winds let the sea rest. Even almighty sleep releases those it has held longest. And we not also learn restraint? He says he will yield, go to the sea, cleanse himself, return. Tecmessa hears this, and something releases in her. The chorus sings one of the few moments of pure joy in the play. Ajax is going to live. They believe this completely. He leaves. They scatter to accompany him. Find him. Be near this. And they let him go. Here is what Ajax actually said. Not the surface. What the words mean when you hold them next to what you know about this man. Time brings all things from darkness into light. He had been in the dark. One night, against his nature, against every principle he had organized his life around. He had done things in the dark he could not do in the light, not because he lacked courage, but because in the light, seeing clearly, he would have known what he was doing, and knowing would have made it impossible. Athena understood that. That is why she took his sight and not his strength. Everything yields. Winter to summer, night to day. Ajax yields to nothing. Not pride in the small sense. Something more fundamental. Ajax is not constructed for yielding. The internal machinery that allows a person to look at who they were yesterday and become, without fracture. Someone different today, Ajax does not have it. He was made to hold. When he says, "I have learned restraint," he is saying the only thing that makes sense given what he now understands, that the kind of person he is cannot survive what has happened to him. He is not going to the sea to cleanse himself. He is going to finish what he started. He takes the sword Hector gave him. That sword has been in his possession since the duel in year 7, the day that ended without a winner. The exchange of gifts between two men who had fought all day and recognized, at the end of it, something worthy in the opponent. The only moment in 10 years when Ajax was seen for exactly what he was. Not for a victory, for the quality of his presence in a fight that ended without one. The enemy was the one who saw him most clearly. He carries it to the shore, kneels, pushes the blade into the Trojan earth and takes his time, making sure it is stable, adjusts it, checks it again. The same scene we opened with. Now you know who is kneeling. Now you know what it took to arrive here. Around 530 BCE, an Athenian artist named Exarchaios painted a vase that survives today in the Vatican Museum. He did not paint Ajax in battle, did not paint the duel or the defense of the ships. He painted Ajax kneeling alone, pushing a sword into the earth with both hands. His helmet set to one side, his shield against a tree, head bent toward the blade. The lines on his face, scholars have noted for centuries, do not suggest madness. They suggest a man who is thinking, present, knowing exactly where he is and what he is doing, carrying out a decision with the same care and precision he brought to every decision he ever made. That is Exarchaios Ajax, not a man consumed by rage, a man doing something deliberate. Even here, even at the end, trying to see, the chorus went looking for him. When they understood, when a messenger brought warning from Calchas the prophet, that Ajax must be kept indoors this specific day, that Athena's anger would fall. Today they scattered in two directions, calling his name. They did not find him in time, not because they didn't care, because for 10 years they had been trained by everything Ajax was and refused to ask for, to believe he was the one who did not need finding, the one who would still be standing, the bulwark. Bulwarks don't fall. Until they do, he is alone on the shore, the sea in front of him, the sword in the Trojan earth, and Ajax, who has spent 10 years doing everything surrounded by men who needed him to be what he was, is finally alone. He speaks, not to anyone in the camp, to the things he loves, in the order he loves them. You, Helios, whose chariot wheels climb the steep sky when you look down over my father's land. Pull back those golden reins and tell the story of my miseries to my old father and to the unhappy woman who nursed me. The sun first, the light, the thing he prayed for over Patroclus's body. Standing in Zeus's fog, kill us, if you will. But in the light, he got that prayer, fought in the light for 10 years, stood in it over and over when others wouldn't. He says, I will never see that chariot again. Not with bitterness, with something harder than bitterness, the plainness of someone who has looked at a thing fully and stopped fighting the shape of it. O light, O sacred soil of Salamis firm, seat of my father's hearth. Salamis, where his father Telamon is still alive. Still waiting. Telamon, who raised him to be a certain kind of person and succeeded. Telamon, who does not know yet. Glorious Athens. You rivers, you streams, you plains of Troy. One by one, each thing named, like a man going through a list of everything that mattered, making sure nothing is left out. This is the last time. Farewell, you who have nurtured me. This is the last word that Ajax speaks to you. Sophocles shifts the scene, the chorus still searching. Tecmessa finds him. Teucer arrives from his raid. Menelaus says, "The body cannot be buried. A traitor's body belongs in the open," which in their world meant erasure, making a person as if they had never existed. Teucer refuses. Odysseus overrules Menelaus. He says this man was the greatest warrior among us. After Achilles, the best. I hated him. He hated me. None of that changes what he was. The man who won the tribunal, who represents the world Ajax, could not survive, is the one who insists on the burial. Not from guilt, because he sees Ajax. At the start of the play, when Athena showed Ajax broken and talking to hallucinations, Odysseus did not gloat. He said, "I pity him. In his condition, I see what any man's condition could become." The question that stays is not whether Ajax was right or wrong. It is whether anyone saw him that clearly while he was still alive. Years later, Troy fell. Odysseus wandered for 10 more years before finding his way home. Following Circe's instruction, he performed a ritual at the edge of the world, dug a pit, poured offerings of blood and wine, and the dead came to him as shadows. Among them, Ajax. Odysseus spoke first. He told Ajax he wished things had gone differently, that he regretted the outcome. Ajax said nothing, stood at the edge of the pit, looked toward Odysseus, did not move, did not speak. Homer gives us every sentence of the apology and then gives us Ajax in one line. He said nothing and walked away into the darkness of Erebus, following the other souls of the dead. People read this as anger, Ajax refusing to forgive. I think it is something else. By the time Odysseus found him, Ajax had already done what Ajax always did, looked at the thing completely. The tribunal, the armor, the night, the morning, the shore, the sword. He had looked at it with the clarity that was his nature and understood it. He did not need Odysseus's regret. He had already seen it, clearly, in the light. What was left to say? Ajax was not a man who failed because he was too proud. He was a man who built everything around one thing, seeing clearly and acting on what he saw. For 10 years, that was exactly what was needed. Then, one night, a god took it away. Not permanently, just long enough. Ajax could not survive, having once been blind. Not because he was weak, because the self that came out of that night was not someone he knew how to be. And he had never learned to be anyone else. I see clearly. I act on what I see. For one night, that was not true. In the morning, he saw that too. There is a person in your life like Ajax. Maybe you already know who it is. The one who shows up when things go wrong, who holds when no one else will, who has never asked you to notice they were doing it. Or maybe the person you are thinking of is you. We know what it costs to build your entire identity around a single form of strength. The cost is invisible. The person paying it has made a life out of making invisible things possible for everyone else. We know that when the wall shows a crack, it is almost always too late for the conversation that should have happened years earlier. Ajax did not need rescuing. But somewhere in those 10 years, there was a conversation that didn't happen. Not about weakness. Just, are you all right, as a real question. One that requires stopping. One that waits for the actual answer. Ajax stood in the fog and prayed for light. He got it. He named it, in his last words, the sun. Salamis. His father. The rivers of Troy, while the person who might have changed things was not there. No one was there. The question is not whether you understand him. The question is, who in your life is standing in the dark right now, holding something together you are not thinking about, and what it would cost you to ask if they can see, before it is too late to ask.